The story of Jesus Christ is an incredibly familiar one to anyone who's acquainted with Christianity and the Bible. However, the historical period in which Jesus lived was one that's also of great interest to historians and archaeologists, and finding evidence of early Christianity through religious texts and artifacts is just as exciting to historical scholars as it is to religious scholars. A few years back, police were carrying out a routine road check in Turkey when they made a surprising discovery. After pulling over a car and carrying out a random check, they discovered what appeared to be an old book. It wasn't until further investigations were done that it turned out the book was of particular importance, and this was because it was an ancient Bible. It's likely that the ancient relic was going to be sold on to someone, as many of these biblical artifacts end up on marketplaces that the general public don't have access to. Sadly, not much information has been released about the discovery, mainly because these types of books get locked up for their safety. Some photographs were shared online though, and some noticed that Jesus looked to be covered in gold lining, and said that this is the true image of Christ. Throughout the years there have been many representations of Jesus Christ, but what did the real man actually look like? For years, many depictions of Jesus Christ had him as blue-eyed, long-haired and pale. However, according to Professor Joan Taylor, these representations are far from accurate. Taylor believes that Christ was actually olive brown-skinned, with dark hair and dark eyes. She explained Jesus would have been a man of Middle Eastern appearance. What I have learned is that Judeans of this time were closest biologically to Iraqi Jews of the contemporary world. There's other aspects of his physical appearance that we can speculate on using information we have about him and where he was from. Taylor stated he also probably wore shoes that were similar to modern-day sandals. Due to how expensive clothes were in that day, he probably fixed up his own shoes and clothing. I think what you would recognize Jesus as being is just really someone who looked very poor. Whatever Jesus Christ looks like will remain a mystery, but the clues available to us are sure to still generate excitement even as the years go on. One historical expert said the following on social media about these disappearing Bibles. This isn't the first time and won't be the last time that a discovery like this is made, but one of the biggest issues we have is working out whether these written accounts are genuine, or whether they're recreations of a story that someone's heard. It's a good indication though when you see these old books and parchments and the shape they're in, and in many cases these books have a lot in common with earlier or later works, and it's for this reason that more investigations need to be carried out. One of the reasons why historians don't like it when these artifacts go to private markets is because we don't know the history of the object, or where it was discovered, meaning that we can't conduct further research into the area. If we know the specific place where the artifact was found, it means we can carry out further investigations, and most of the time where there's one artifact there's likely to be more. As a result of this, history suffers when we can't uncover the truth about these objects and where they came from. Another mystery is that of the Shroud of Turin. The Shroud of Turin, also known as the Holy Shroud, is a stretch of linen a little over 1 meter long. It has a faint, difficult to see image of a man on it, showing both the front and back view. This image is very faint and is hardly even visible when looking at the brown linen, though the image becomes much clearer when looked at in the photographic negative. Many believe the man on the linen depicts Jesus Christ, as some reddish-brown stains on the cloth align with the description of Jesus' wounds following his crucifixion. Though the Catholic Church does not offer any formal comments as to whether the shroud is genuine, the general belief as to why the Holy Shroud is so important is that Jesus was wrapped in the linen following his crucifixion. The Shroud of Turin has been kept in the royal chapel of the Cathedral of Turin in Italy since 1578. Now the mystery continues to develop, with a DNA study in 2015 revealing the journey of the shroud, and this is based on the pollen and dust that it seems to have come into contact with. By sequencing these genes, the team is able to tell what people and what plants the linen has been surrounded by. In a nutshell, it appears as though the shroud itself was made in India before beginning a tour of the world. It journeyed from Jerusalem to Turkey, across to France and down to Italy, where it remained in Turin. One of the biggest aids in determining all of this information was the plants, as some plant groups are native specifically to certain regions. For example, clovers, horsetail and ryegrass are native exclusively to the Mediterranean, meaning when these pollens were found on the linen, the shroud must have at least passed through the Mediterranean. Dr. Gianni Barcia, a plant genetics professor at the University of Padova, commented, "Here we report the main findings from the analysis of genomic DNA extracted from dust particles vacuumed from parts of the body image, and the lateral edge used for radiocarbon dating. The team found plant genes not only from the Mediterranean, but also some from the Middle East, Asia or from the Americas, though the researchers have been careful in explaining that some of these genes may have been introduced after the medieval period, not necessarily during. Some of the researchers said that some of the notable crop species identified were grown by farmers, and therefore were somewhat common in farming communities and agricultural systems in the Old World. With this theory, the presence of such diverse DNA is explained by the shroud being something of a religious attraction, inviting people to come and see it from all around the globe, allowing it to be contaminated by a broad range of DNA. In 1998, the shroud was carbon dated to the 13th century, but while some questions are answered, we still have a long way to go to truly determine its authenticity and answer our questions about its creation. Whilst the Church offers no comments on the legitimacy of it having been involved in the burial of Jesus, nor on any involvement of miracles in the man being displayed on the linen, the Shroud of Turin continues to be an item of religious importance. So what do you make of these interesting discoveries? Be sure to leave your questions and answers in the comment section below. It'd help us to grow this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.